60 Minutes Rewind.
The morning of November 8th, a massive wildfire tore through California mountain communities north of Sacramento. Because it started near Camp Creek Road, it was called the Camp Fire. The cause is still under investigation. But within a couple of hours, it devoured the town of Paradise, population 27,000. About 95% of Paradise was lost. Its smaller neighbors, Concow and Magalia, were all but destroyed. Until now, last year's wildfire in California's wine country was the worst on record in the state. The Federal Climate Report released last month warns increasing extreme heat and drought conditions could make future wildfires even worse. Tonight, we'll take you into the campfire and show you what the firefighters saw. That video and the destruction had us wondering how anything could be worse. This is Paradise, or what remains of it. Block after ashen block of burned houses and ruined lives. 3 weeks ago, children played here, people shopped here, and families prayed here. The wildfire that roared through Paradise was as random as it was merciless. In just a few terrifying hours, it killed about 90 people and destroyed almost 19,000 buildings, businesses, and homes. Paradise sits in the heart of Butte County. On the morning of November 8th, County Sheriff and Coroner Corey Honey woke up and saw an ominous glow. He knew it was a fire, and it was heading his way.
So at what point in the morning did you realize that you had to evacuate this whole town?
I think the best way that I can characterize it is it was outrunning us before we even knew we were in a race or what direction the race was going to take us. It was dark. It seemed like it was nighttime because the smoke had blocked out the sun. Ash and embers were raining down. And as the fire grew closer, there was this real sense of it being hell on earth.
Mandatory evacuations all of Paradise. Get people moving now!
The sheriff quickly mobilized his deputies. Firefighters raced to defend the town, but they were overwhelmed. The fire was too fast and too big.
Oncoming!
Strike Team 9231C found themselves driving straight into the inferno. The crew shot this video from the truck.
I think they'll make a hard left.
Captain John Jessen was behind the wheel. He told us he's seen many wildfires in his 24 years as a California state firefighter, but all paled compared to this.
What made this one so different?
The fire front that was coming up the canyon was literally miles long and 200-foot flame length. It's hard to describe how fast this fire was moving.
Residents fleeing the maelstrom had turned all routes out of Paradise into gridlock death traps. The strike team got caught in the traffic jam.
Why are these people here? They need to get the out of here.
Panicked people abandoned their cars. A sheriff's deputy captured the chaos on his body cam.
Hey, guys!
4 people made their way to the strike team truck, including Eva Walker.
What was the fire doing at this point?
The bushes were catching on fire, the trees were on fire, so you're moving to get away from the flames, but there's nowhere to move to.
She thought she'd been saved when the strike team pulled her into the truck. Captain Jessen made a desperate radio call for air support, but the smoke was too thick, the winds too strong for help from above.
The destruction.
Firefighter Casey Peck quietly started to pray.
And I was just thinking to myself, just praying like, please, Lord, be merciful and watch over us, watch over our families.
You were praying for your life?
Yeah.
Just then, through the darkness, 2 lights appeared. A firefighter driving a bulldozer responded to Jessen's call for help and started clearing an escape route.
All of a sudden, the bulldozer, who I swear to God is an angel, was the one who came through. I don't know where that man came from. I mean, who does that? Who drives into the flames? He did.
You called him an angel?
Called him an angel. He saved all of us.
Her angel was bulldozer driver Joe Kennedy.
So I was taking the burning cars and pushing them off the road away from the people in the cars that weren't on fire.
Sam Layton was behind Kennedy in another fire truck. Both opened their doors to let people in.
It was a blessing and a curse to go to that fire, but I'm happy that I was there to help people.
Layton, Kennedy, and the strike team took 9 civilians to safety, then turned around, went back in, and saved more.
There's points where you're scared or where you think, I shouldn't have come this far into the fire. But at the same time, you have to keep going because lives and property are at stake.
We were in a situation where there weren't enough fire engines and there weren't enough law enforcement officers.
The resources all overwhelmed by this fire?
Absolutely.
How would you describe this fire?
Apocalyptic.
Using this new tool, Ken Pimlott, chief of the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, showed us how fast the campfire spread. Computerized projections on this 3D map chart the course of the fire.
Where did the fire start?
Fire started in the community of Polga at about 6:30 in the morning on November 8th, and it was quickly accelerated by 40-mile-an-hour winds coming from the north.
Look at this.
The fire was growing at this time at a rate of 1 football field a second, so an acre a second.
Football field a second?
Yes. Within 2 hours, the fire is impacting the community of Paradise. It took 12 hours to essentially consume all of that. That was a record pace.
How many acres in total?
153,300 acres.
Wow. What's going on? Everyone says that this is the new normal.
We're now every year seeing fires like this that are becoming more and more extreme. We had 5 years of drought. The vegetation is critically parched. Our temperatures, the mean temperature in the state is going up. And so these are all factors that are just really a combination of things that are driving very extreme events.
The same day wildfire razed Paradise, the Woolsey fire erupted in Southern California. The wind-whipped flames killed 3 people, destroyed 1,500 structures, and burned more than 90,000 acres in and around Malibu. The brown, fire-scarred terrain can be seen from space.
Californians have to learn to live with fires like this?
These fires are showing no sign of letting up. There's no reason for them to stop based on the conditions that we're seeing.
Hey, any luck on tracking that fellow down?
As sheriff, Corey Honey is coordinating law enforcement's response in Paradise.
This is horrible work, and I'm sorry that you have to do it.
As coroner, he's overseen the search of every structure burned in the fire, looking for remains. In the immediate aftermath of the fire, there were nearly 1,300 people unaccounted for. That number has fallen to 25.
How do you check every site?
Yeah, it's unprecedented. We have brought in search teams from all throughout California, urban search rescue, coroners teams, forensic anthropologists, to see if we can determine whether or not there are human remains there. And if there are, of course, we want to recover them and do what's necessary to return those remains to the family.
Can you tell me what the search team is doing behind us right now?
Because this fire burns so hot and so intensely, those remains are often completely consumed or nearly completely consumed. And so these guys are looking for bones or bone fragments, which is why we have the anthropologists here to help identify those.
Search crews and volunteer anthropologists and medical examiners meticulously sifted through ash and debris, as though on an archaeological dig, zeroing in on bathrooms, front doors, porches, places people might seek shelter or get trapped. It was detailed, sacred work. Remains were removed in blue body bags. Some, the charred fragments, fit in brown paper bags. All the body bags were brought to the morgue in Sacramento.
So once you get these remains, how are you trying to identify who the victim is?
Early on, we were able to use some of the more traditional means of identifying human remains, including fingerprints, dental records, things of that nature. And we'll continue to do that where that's possible. But at this point, what we're finding, we're going to mostly have to rely upon DNA analysis.
In mass casualty disasters, identifying remains using DNA normally takes months. The sheriff turned to a new rapid DNA identification technology. It was used here for the first time in a disaster zone.
The story will continue after this.
Inventor Dr. Richard Selden says he can identify remains in just hours.
These victims were incinerated. How much material do you need to analyze to come up with a match?
Just a swab, a Q-tip that had been rubbed against the right tissue, or a small fragment of bone, sometimes a small fragment of muscle or liver. That very small fragment would allow us to get the DNA ID and in many, many cases, solve the case, make the identification.
Did you fear or worry that you might not be able to get some material that you could use to identify people?
I was shocked when I saw the first remains. The kind of samples I handled, I was pretty sure weren't going to work. I told our technical team, let's do it anyway, 5% chance. And the first 8 samples all worked perfectly.
Selden set up shop in a rented RV in the coroner's parking lot.
This is it. This is somebody.
He took a process that once required an entire lab and shrunk it down to a piece of plastic. Swabs of body tissue or bone are placed inside what he calls the chip, where DNA is purified and separated. The results are matched with DNA samples provided by relatives. By the end of last week, 41 victims had been identified, 31 of them with rapid DNA.
Has the technology proven true to the promise?
We've been very pleased with the technology, not only in terms of its ability to confirm the identities, but the speed with which it's able to do that. The longer that process is, the worse it is for the family, in my view.
78-year-old Marie Weehee lived alone in the deep woods just outside Paradise. Her children, Bonnie and Tommy, and his wife Lisa, last heard from Marie the night before the fire.
She said, "I love you, and I love you too." I haven't spoke to her since.
For 12 days, they searched and hoped to find Marie in a shelter. They heard the sheriff was encouraging relatives of the missing to provide DNA samples. 5 days after Bonnie and Tommy gave their swabs, a match was made. Their mother's remains were found in her truck, not far from her house.
What does that knowing do for you?
We know she's been found.
It's on the road to recovery. I don't know if you can ever say we'll ever recover from this, but it gives us peace of mind to know that we can try to get some closure and that we have found her.
Yeah.
So
she's not going to be missing forever.
No.
The campfire destroyed just about everything in Paradise. After fires like this, nature has a way of rebounding. The question is, can Paradise?
On the morning of November 8th, there was a thriving community, and in a matter of hours, it's wiped out, it's gone.
How do you recover from something like this?
Well, when that happens, I'll let you know, but we have a long road ahead of us.